Okay, welcome everybody. It is such an honor to be with you all here today, responding to the film Unspoken with the Mendel JCC. Hello, everybody. I will briefly introduce myself, and we will all go around and share some reasons, like short. Who are you, and why are you here? And then we're going to delve a little bit deeper into some of the themes of the film. So my name is Miryam Kabakov. I'm one of the founders of Eshel and its executive director, and I work on LGBTQ inclusion in the Orthodox communities across North America. Coming to Eshel was a journey that was both personal and professional. And I had been working in Orthodox LGBTQ inclusion for many years before Eshel formed. And once it did, I was really delighted to be able to step into this role because it was the first time that the Jewish community, the broader Jewish community, recognized that inclusion within Orthodoxy of queer Jews was important. That is why I'm here, and I'm going to pass it on to Nathan in Israel.
For those who don't know me, my name is Nathan. I'm a West Hartford native, a proud graduate of both Solomon Schechter and formerly the Hebrew High School of New England, now the New England Jewish Academy. Also a graduate of the University of Connecticut, and I made Aliyah just about 5.5 years ago. Throughout my whole life, really, I've been involved in Jewish communal work, and that's what I do today as my profession. But of course, also this issue of LGBTQ inclusivity is very close to my heart. Also, having come out in college and recently getting married, all that I build community for, I want them to know that they can be Jewish and a proud LGBTQ member of the community, and neither of those have to negate the other one. So I'm very, very happy to be here and very honored to be part of this conversation.
Thank you so much, Nathan. So glad that you could make it. Rabbi Adler, why don't you go next?
Good evening and hello. I'm Yitzchok Adler. I'm the rabbi at Beth Synagogue here in West Hartford, and I'm proud to say I'm in my 30th year here in West Hartford at the synagogue. For me, one of the most important, impactful moments of my years here at Beth David came on a Saturday afternoon at a Suda Shlishit. It was around the time that Ellen DeGeneres had a famous episode of her show where she came out. And I don't remember the specific parsha, but I remember using it to talk about the importance of having a safe place where people can be comfortable regardless of how they practice and who they are. A few days later, someone who was in attendance at that Suda Shlishit called me, asked me for an appointment, and in the privacy and safe space of my office said to me, I never thought I would hear something in an Orthodox shul that made me feel as much a part of the congregation as everybody else. That was so transformative to me, informative to me, and has been a beacon that has guided me every day of my career.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Adler. You're a true pioneer and a guiding light for many of us. I'm going to pass it on to you, Ann Pava, to introduce yourself.
I'm I'm from West Hartford. I'm a community leader. But I think in order to explain why we funded this film, I'll just talk a little bit about our philanthropy. I'm president of Micah Philanthropies. Jeremy and I started a family foundation about 3 years ago, and we chose to name it Micah Philanthropies after the prophet Micah and his famous phrase, "What does the Lord ask of us? To seek justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God." Jeremy and I are Orthodox. We're practicing Orthodox family, and our mission is to promote covenantal Jewish living by making traditional Judaism more relevant, accessible, and meaningful to contemporary Jews. Our big dream and vision for the world is that anyone who is Orthodox or wants to be more traditional should feel welcome and a part of this life, this type of lifestyle if they so choose. So for us, focusing our philanthropy on the LGBTQ community was very important because we think that is a community that needs to be more welcome and to feel a part, like what Rabbi Adler just said, to just feel so a part of an Orthodox community without having to work so hard. And as a result, also we agreed to fund this film, which I thought was really beautiful.
At Eshel, we started with a Welcoming Shuls project where we talked to heads of shuls all over North America just to see how welcoming an LGBTQ person can be made to feel when they enter the doors of the shul. And then as we were like doing this work, we realized actually the shul is just one piece of it. There's another piece. There's the school, there's the camp, there's the JCC, there's the friends of your parents, there's your home, your parents, and of course your day school. So it's like it takes a village with child rearing, but also just with Orthodox LGBTQ inclusion. So thank you for highlighting that. So I want to start with you, Nathan, actually, just to reflect on the film itself. Was there something about this film that hit home or just felt, wow, oh my gosh, that thing happened to me also? What parts of the film resonated most closely with you?
I'm watching the film and I'm seeing your average religious day school kid who is on the outside seeming fine to the world and on the inside really going through and struggling with who they are as a person, who they are as a Jewish person, and who they are as a queer person. And all of these, while they intertwine, can at times can be conflicting with one another. This really hit home in that sense. And now when I do speak to other friends, we can all kind of like reflect back on being that same kid and see ourselves in that environment and what it's like to go through it. And again, thank God for me, it was much better than most, but not everyone is as lucky. And I think it's important to recognize that a lot of people are dealing with that struggle on a daily basis. And like you said before, it takes a village, because just making statements of acceptance is one thing. Actually getting to a place of being actively embracing to them being who they are is another thing.
Yeah, great, thank you. So Rabbi Adler, I'm going to turn to you. What was the most important message that you received from this film?
Late in the film, when the main character's sister is getting married, and our character simply doesn't feel comfortable in the simcha, dancing in the circles, men together, women together. He just didn't feel right. And so he was in the hall. His mom came out to try to get him to come in, and he refused. But when his sister stepped out from her own wedding and made a comment to the point that I love you, and I love how you love, and I will love who you love, broke a barrier and made it possible for this young man to engage with his family on the terms that were most comfortable for him. And an observation, Miryam, you probably have seen more often than you wish. Sometimes coming out to one's family can be more difficult than coming out to one's friends, because parents have expectations, aspirations for their children. Parents often chart the lives that they hope their kids will travel. And when children become young adults and they begin to explore their own worlds and come to their own conclusions and learn about their own emotions and feelings, if that's not what parents expected for their kids, that can be heartbreaking in multiple ways. And when that bride came out, embraced her brother and said, please come dance with me and come be with us, that was the opening of a door that hopefully changed that family for the better.
So let me just ask you, Rabbi, I'm going to press you a little bit more. Like, you have a very special vision for your community. I mean, most rabbis always say to us, everyone is welcome. Every Jew is welcome. But actually, when an LGBTQ Jew enters some of these shuls, they don't feel that. And you at Beth David, I think, have a way of making people really know that they're welcome for whoever they are.
I quote the prophet Isaiah all the time, whose verses are central to worship on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Ki beiti beit tefillah yikarei l'chol ha'amim. My house is a house of prayer for all people. When synagogues open their doors, I want to believe that any synagogue of which I am a part opens its doors to all people without discrimination, without prejudice, without definition. Plus, I must tell you that when people come to our shul, no one gets looked at in terms of, did you walk? Did you drive? Do you keep kosher? Are you in a relationship? At Beth David, it really doesn't matter. If a person wishes to pray, to be part of a community, to socialize with the community, I want my shul to be identified as one where everybody is welcome.
Thank you. I want to shift to you, Anne. You've had a lot of experience in shifting the landscape of Orthodoxy through your philanthropy and through your vision. And I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about how you know that a project is going to be successful in helping to shift the landscape. What are the things people need to think about when they're, thinking about like making changes within a community that will be beneficial to everybody, but won't be welcomed by everyone?
We don't always know if something's going to be successful. We didn't know if this movie would be successful, but we thought it was important, and we thought it was important that it have a champion. We know that it's an important space for us to be in because other people might not. So I guess I would say sometimes you just take a leap of faith if it's a space that you want to really promote, and even if you don't know it'll be successful. I mean, how many times are you going to see a movie made about a gay young Orthodox high school student? I watched that movie as a mother and as a grandmother, right? I just remember, one, I was so worried about him, right? I could see that I was worried the way his mother was reacting to him. I was worried, and I saw him be so hopeful. I guess I watched him go through this process of being hopeful that his grandfather was gay and that his friend was gay, who was helping him in this. Like, he had these two pieces of hope, and I watched them be dashed at the end of the film. I thought it was very real. I thought it was very, very real to me. He felt like a real kid. She felt like a real mother. That was my community. They did a very good job. I found the movie to be very powerful and very common, if that's a right word to use, so that I think all audiences could really relate to it.
Thank you. I love what you just said about the kid had so much hope that these two stories were reflective of his experience. And
Right.
And this actually, we just came back from our national retreat, our Eshel national retreat. And people were talking about this feeling of like, you are so convinced in high school that everybody's looking at you and everybody knows your deepest, darkest secret if you're gay. And everything you hear is through that lens. And it was kind of great that in the end, those other stories were not his story. And yet, he found a way to sort of come out with them.
I think, Rabbi Adler, you mentioned it earlier, that sometimes it is easier to come out to friends and your circles around you, and even harder to come out to family. And that is very true for myself. With my family coming from a religious Orthodox background, I came out to most of my friends, my peers, before I came out to anyone in my family. And that was a hurdle that I was afraid of because of the religiosity piece. Before each time that something like this happens, I had that hope inside, but maybe also that fear of the worst case scenario of what would happen.
And I think sometimes that is one of the haunts, how to deal with the truth. And our character was struggling with that. To the very end, he was struggling with his own truth and how to deal with it, if to reveal it, how to reveal it. Is it condemning, or is truth not something to be condemned, but something to be embraced regardless of the consequences? Torah calls upon us to lead lives of truth. Torah considers truth to be an ultimate value. Hashem Elokechem Emet. And as I reflect upon the movie, aside from an individual person's journey, I think the movie asks us to think about the place that truth holds in how we judge each other and ultimately how we judge ourselves.
There's so many things that are not spoken about but are spoken about, and
Right.
especially in Jewish studies, like in the 6th grade, my Torah teacher taught us sota, the chapter, the parsha about adulterers, an adulterous person, and he defended himself and he said, well, this is like a real life thing that you all need to learn about. And we were just in the 6th grade, but his point is like, this is life. And so there's so much in the Torah and the Talmud that just deals with like real life situations. And so it's all there and we're all thinking about it. We're all talking about it anyway. And what is a way that you can say this a little differently or talk about, a passage in the Torah in a way that's not going to like hit deeply into someone's soul and make them feel that they don't have a place in Judaism. There's so much that we can learn from every sentence in the Torah, but like, what is it that we could learn from this one that won't be damaging?
I one time had a member at Beth David, every Yom Kippur afternoon when that pasuk is read at Mincha, this person discreetly absented himself from the sanctuary because it just made him feel so terribly uncomfortable to be there. We talked about it. And ultimately, I had to accept and validate his discomfort. It didn't make him less orthodox, less observant, less fearful and respectful of God. But my responsibility to that person at that point was to validate that something was happening that was uncomfortable, not to condemn the person for leaving the sanctuary, but validate what was truthful and deeply spiritual for that individual. But there are times in so many lives when people say, Rabbi, I know X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't fit well into my life. And the concept of the Rebbe-Talmud relationship means that talking to the Rebbe is a safe space.
The other thing that's making me think of Rabbi Adler is that everyone has to know that they don't have to have all the answers. We don't have all the answers. We just have to give space for people's feelings and their questions. And you could say like, I don't have the answer for you, but I'm going to stick by you and I'm going to be your ally and your advocate.
And not only is there the power of what someone does say, there's also the power of what people don't say. And when we're looking at our communities, sometimes not talking about the issue or the elephant in the room is actually more problematic and will harm someone more than actually creating the space for them to be able to talk about it. I actually personally like to fight a bit the term safe space, because I think also it is our mission to create spaces where people can feel comfortable to be uncomfortable. That's actually challenging the norm of others, not the person who may be coming out and having that experience, but challenging others to be able to have that conversation as well. And so I think for everyone in the audience, whether you are a parent or whether you are the student who's experiencing, being in the closet or coming out, or the student who doesn't even know yet that their friend next to them is going through that, I want to challenge us all to really take the message of this film and actually implement it in bringing this conversation out into the open and creating those spaces where we can talk about it and allow people to be their true selves.
I think there is a benefit to the Orthodox community. In fact, candidly, not only the Orthodox community, but the right-wing spiritual community as a whole in the United States, when clergy is willing to take a stance that might be uncomfortable for others in order to trigger the conversations or the self-reflection or the introspection, and that is not achieved by creating silos. It's achieved by creating communities. And if we have to travel a journey that's a little bit unsafe in order to create greater safety, that's a journey I'm prepared to travel.
I feel a little compelled to say, for I think in the Reform and the Conservative and Reconstructionist communities, this is not it's like, if I were in part of those communities, I would probably just say, get over yourselves already. Like, what's the big deal here? But the truth is, it's not as easy in Orthodoxy, because there's a lot of judgment, and there's a lot of, people have to be very brave. Rabbi Adler is brave. Nathan was brave. Miryam, you are brave. People have to be brave to say what is right, and have halachic sources to back you up. I mean, this is a system that's very, very based on halacha, and not just on kindness and justice and what's right, but it needs to incorporate the halacha with it. And so there are people who are leading in this way, and I'm hoping that it becomes more normative. At least I'm seeing it more normative in the modern Orthodox community. So I guess I just wanted to throw out there that it's a little different in Orthodoxy. Bravery is needed, halachic knowledge is needed, and then of course you need all the other things: kindness and compassion and justice. So I guess I will end with the hope that the Orthodox community, and certainly the modern Orthodox community, is moving in that direction.
Thank you. I love that. Bravery. Yes. Okay. Nathan, would you like to?
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of take this, and after what you shared, to another complete extreme, even on this journey for me personally. That this summer, I got married after 6.5 years with my now husband at the time, boyfriend, who I met in Israel. And I should say that we got married in a halachically binding, recognized queer chuppah, which fights a lot of stigmas, I think, in the community. And as you were talking about, using halachic sources to basically validate the fact that we will be who we are and can be who we are. This was exactly a moment that I felt, and my husband felt, and I think a lot of our families felt. And I'll even add, everyone who was at the wedding felt, even those who are straight and have never been to something like this before, to actually be able to see for themselves up front that it is possible. It really is possible. And so, this is even the next step for, I think, all of us, not just on this call and not just in the room watching this film, but all of us as a Jewish community, a Jewish Orthodox community, to be striving for.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for being here. What an honor to be with you and to hear from you.